Hey, what's going on, everyone? So, give it one sec. I'm just gonna do my traditional coffee sip here. Hello, for the few people that joined. James, good to see you. Hope your weekend is going well. Let me know what's new in your corner. I'm just gonna wait for, I'll be doing a client interview today. Former client interview. I actually haven't seen him for a while. Andreas, good to see you. Thanks for jumping in. Hello to you as well. I'll be interviewing a former client today, just kind of waiting for him to jump in, and then oh, he's already here. Give me a second.
What's
Hey,
up? Hi.
hey, what's up, man? I forgot you're like an IT professional and know how to join these quickly.
So I'm just
Usually,
like, woo.
usually I have to wait. Usually I have to wait like 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and then they get confused on how to join, and then I have to talk them into joining. Uh, uh, okay, give me one sec. Let me just do.
Yeah, yeah, no worries.
All right. So thanks for jumping in. For your viewers, I actually haven't seen Jason in probably at least 4 or 5 years minimum.
Has it been that long? Yeah, I think
Maybe
so.
even
Yeah.
longer because we trained like way back in I think Back Bay Fitness. So it must have been like 6 or 7 years ago, maybe even
Well,
longer than that.
it was 2015. That's when I first started training, and then I
Okay.
will go back a little bit like in 2017, but that's about it. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I
Yeah.
haven't I haven't seen him in a long time. It's good to catch up with him. We've obviously stayed in touch online and stuff of that sort. But yeah, I wanted to invite you just to kind of talk about your journey. I know you're in IT, which is like a demanding profession a lot of times. Even when
Right.
you join kind of the laid back companies and all that stuff, it's still, like very random and oftentimes taxing. But one cool thing about you is you figured out a way to create lasting fat loss for yourself, which is, it
Hmm.
seems easy to do on paper, but it's actually extremely rare. And like 80 to not, like I mentioned a lot on these podcasts, 80 to 90% of people that end up losing weight end up regaining it within,
Mm.
3 or 4 years. And there are a myriad of reasons of why this happens, but mostly it's just because they focus on just changing their diet and working out, which seems kind of like all they have to do, but really there's a lot more to it. So I wanted to go over, I actually interview people that actually make it happen in the real world, not
Yeah.
talkers. And they figured out an equation or an algorithm that like works for them. So this show is all on you, man. So feel free to share your knowledge. I think if we start in chronological order, that would be great. Because I remember you came to me maybe I forgot, it's been so long already, but maybe like 20 pounds overweight. I forgot exactly how
It's
much you lost initially.
I I think it was 25. I think it was 25. This is even
25
more than
pounds.
that. Yeah, yeah. So I
Okay.
think yeah. So overall, I started off with you that way, and then but it's funny because growing up, I was been like the skinny kid. It was always skinny, like all that, everything. But then as I got older, I just didn't pay attention to myself, and I just kept eating the way I was eating and all that. And then when we first took those pictures, and I saw it, I was like, oh my God, like that's. I was like, oh, okay. I didn't think I looked like that. But then it was kind of like a reality check. I'm like, oh crap. So yeah. So then me working in IT and all that. In a way, it was kind of I have to find a way to keep your program to keep eating good, and then me sitting on a desk for 8 hours a day for 5 days a week. So I had like find ways to break that and find just go from there. So following your program, your the eating habits and exercise and all that, and sitting down. So I'm like, okay, I need to find a way. So working at Newport Beach, right across from my building was the Fashion Island. So I'm like, you know what? For my lunch break, I had my meal prep going, so I just had it in my hand. I'll just eat it, and I'll just walk around or do something, get some exercise or something when I'm just not sitting down or just taking a break sitting down all the time, pretty much.
Mm.
So yeah, that's a kind of where I've gone with the law firm. And then even when I was trying to look for other jobs and going from there, I always look at the environment to see what is it? Am I going to be sitting down the whole time? Am I going to be walking? Am I going to be going to this building, that building? Like, how big is the office? Like, can I get some extra steps or anything like? So even me, when I look for the jobs, I look for those kind of things as well. Besides the usual thing that people just look at. So when I was working at the school was huge, and it provided me to like uh, get equipment and I will walk with the equipment or go from one end to the other campus to the other end from the campus. So kind of just keep up that way and just in a way would be a form of exercise. I'll have my watch. I can see my heart rate going up. And I'm like, okay, cool. This is fine. And after an hour or so, okay, cool. Sit down, do my work if I do on a computer and all that. So even from there, and then from the industries that I switch upon, I always look for those type of roles I'm able to move up and just go around from there. So I know just sitting down, I can't do that anymore. Like I have to get up, and if I work from home, I make sure that I'm standing up, or I move around my apartment, or even during my lunch break, just go for a run or something, and then come back and eat my lunch. Just find those ways for me to keep active, keep my heart rate up, and at the same time eating great, exercising how you do and all that. So yeah, I don't know, just kind of review on how I managed to keep this and working in tech, and that requires me to be sitting down for a very long periods of time. So yeah, I know
Well, what do you
that's yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good overview. But what do you feel? You work with a lot of IT professionals, and I know when I was giving a lot of
Mm,
corporate health lectures, IT professionals or just computer engineers in general tend to be like not very health conscious, and
hmm
most are just very overweight and have like a lot of orthopedic issues, plus like maybe one or two different other health issues, et cetera, et cetera. What do you feel? What do you feel like that kind of population is kind of doing wrong, and they can kind of improve on? Some kind of tips you would give them if you're coaching them.
I think from what I've experienced and from what I've seen, like a lot of my colleagues were kind of young, so we kind of think differently when it comes to that type of situation, especially when we're like in the office. We need to move around, and when it comes to like an older generation or anything like that, they're just so used to sitting down and doing the work at a computer and all that. And I think it's a generation type of issue. It's because I see like a lot of people that I work with, they tend to, they're a little older, like in their mid 40s to 50s, and they're just sitting down and just working on the computer, and then that's it. And then if they need to like go to another place or something to fix something, they'll send us like, can you guys go do this because you guys are the young ones, or you guys have more energy and all that. I'm like, you know maybe in that case, like, hey, maybe I should probably get up and walk around and do that myself. So I don't know, I think it's had to be proactive, and it's a mindset too. I think that's how they're used to it, but they just have to break that, and they just have to think like, okay, maybe instead of me sitting down, maybe I should do that, or they should come with us. Like, hey, Jason, I'm gonna go show you how to do this. Let's go together. Let's do something where we're to get up and move around. It just kind of way. So I think it's a generation type of thing. I know it's kind of hard to break that type of habit, but it needs to be like I don't know, like a reality check or something, or be like, this just can't work anymore. It has to be some sort of mobility type. I don't know. That's it's yeah.
Yeah, I have a love-hate relationship with the oldies, you know, because they did bring a lot of let's just say I have a love-hate relationship with the oldies, and I'll end it there. Do you feel like that whole philosophy of like I still like, from my vantage point, looking at it from the outside in, it
hmm
seems like the it's hard to tell. It almost seems like it's getting like far worse in certain sectors, but far better in other sectors. Like the whole entire, psychology of like, if you're not dying for your job, you're not doing your job. Is that still very ingrained? Do you see that a lot still from company to company that you're going to?
I see that, but with the older generation, I see how they're so like for me, it's if I could get the chance to like even go in 10 minutes late or something just to get the extra sleep, I'll do it, because I'm like, besides work, I have other things to do. Like, I have a life and everything. So I need that extra sleep. I need those extra 15 minutes to get me through the day and all that. And if I could leave early, then I'll do it. But you have the older generation be like, no, I have to put in this work. I have to do this. I have to do that. And I'm not like, no, like, come on, you already work 6 7 hours. Let's do something. And I think, and like, I'll go back to it. It's just generation type of thing. Like me and my young colleague, like, we're done with the work. let's go, let's leave and all that. But then you have the old people staying to 7, 8 o'clock, and then you see them in the
Hmm.
morning at 8:39. I'm like, what do you do for like your night? Like, I'm yeah, it's yeah.
Honestly, in those situations, I would highly question their productivity. And I say that only because just basic research, I mean, the average person, let's say you come into the office, you chit chat for like 10, 15 minutes, you grab a
Hmm.
coffee, you sit down, you slowly open your emails, you answer your emails, maybe one or two people come into the office, you chit chat with them. And then maybe between like 8 a.m. and 12 noon, you get like an hour of work done out of those 4 hours. And then you go to lunch, right? And that kind of
Hmm.
derails your mindset. You go to lunch, that's an hour, you come back, it takes you like 30 or 40 minutes to kind of phase back into work. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And then most likely, still some person is coming into the office and chit chatting with you, and it kind of distracts you a little bit here and there. And then on the second 4 hours of the day, basically from like 1 to 5, let's just say they're clocking out at 5, which most aren't, they're probably again getting an hour, good solid hour of work
Work.
in. You know what I mean? So I mean, in that 8 hour shift, they got 2 hours of work in. I'm like, dude, you're just like chitter chattering for eight. This isn't like a quantity thing, it's a quality of work thing, you know? So if
Right.
you can get the quality of work turned in 1 hour versus like 8 hours, okay, then get out of here. You know, why are you sticking around? Like what? You don't have a life like me? You know?
Right. Right. And then also
You know, it's
and
fine.
that's what it like I know everyone is not in the same position as I am or anything like that, but like when I look for jobs, I look for like tech companies, because tech companies are usually run by very young people, and they know that, so they give you the option to work from home. So when you work from home, you don't, I won't say you have distractions, but you don't have, like how you said, like talk to the people, whatever. You kind of get your work done, and by like 12 or 1, you're kind of done with your work. So, and then as long as your work is done, like a lot of these companies are like, if it's done, if you don't have any meetings, the rest of the day is yours. So that's like another, like if I'm looking for a job, I kind of look for that. Like I need to change industries or whatever I need to in order to get those type of jobs and have that flexibility. And if you do have to go to the office and all that, it's just everybody has the right mind, has almost the same mindset. Like let's get our work done and everything cool. We're done with our meetings. It's 2 o'clock. You know what? You guys should go home. Or hey, it's Friday. Let's work till 12, and then the whole company just gets like the rest of the day off. Like I've seen those, and I'm like, see, that's where I want to be at. Like that makes me want to work whatever I need to do, and then after that, I'm done. And like I said, not everyone's in the same position. I know everybody has different type of things. I totally get that. If you get the opportunity to do that, like go for it.
Are you working remotely right now? Is that your setup?
I'm not. I'm not working remotely. I work at the previous job I was, but because of the pandemic, they had to like downsize, so I lost my job. But then I got a new one. But this one does allow me to be very mobile around the office. So do work a little bit, work on the computer, and then just go whatever I need to do around the office. Pretty big too, so I do that. If I go grab a lunch, I don't drive. I just walk. It's like a 10-minute
Hmm.
walk. I do that, and yeah.
Yeah, I only bring that up because I actually encourage a lot of my clients that can do it to definitely
Hmm.
work remote
Yeah.
because especially during the whole COVID thing, I mean, everyone was working remote for like a good year and a half at least, maybe like
Hmm.
2 years if you want to stretch it out. And obviously, I was coaching them and kind of teaching them about changing their belief system. So with the extra time they had left, they're investing it in themselves and their health, et cetera, et cetera. That's an important difference there because a lot of people that didn't have that support system just kind of fizzled away with that extra time. They didn't even know what
Yeah.
to do, so they filled it with eating,
Hmm.
drinking, whatever, misery, obesity, et cetera, et cetera. You've seen that all over the news, obviously.
Right.
But I tell people, like, dude, if you just kind of transition from like, um, if you just basically transition from in-person work to remote, on average, I mean, there's so many different variations. Some people drive to work 30 minutes. I had
Hmm.
one client I actually interviewed, and here at one point he was driving to work 3 hours each way. And I'm
Jesus.
like, dude, at that point,
That's
just freaking quit, man.
yeah.
I mean, I don't know how you would not want to like kill yourself at the end
No,
of the
my
week. You're
God.
basically
Yeah.
to work, you're basically driving from like where you are to Las Vegas and back every day. But I was
Yeah.
telling him, like, I'm like, dude, let's say on the low end, you save a good like 5 hours a week of driving time. And just to really like optimize, I'm not talking about being Olympic level, obviously, but just
Mm-hmm.
to really optimize like your appearance, your mental and physical health from like an average person's perspective, all you really need total is about like 10 or 11 good hours per week. And how I break that down is you need about like 5 to 4 hours to work out, and then the remaining time to do all the background stuff, like shopping for your food, making your meals, getting to bed on time, whatever, et cetera, et
Mm-hmm.
cetera. And you can make up that difference simply by working remote. And
Oh yeah.
honestly, I don't, I just saw people become more productive because it's not like you could be doing work while driving to work. You know what I mean? And also just those interruptions and kind of dealing with those micro stresses of a lot of in-person work. Not every company's like this, but a lot of companies are. You just have a lot of micro stresses, a lot of political drama, a lot of tension between the boss and employee or the
Mm-hmm.
employee and employee. And this is actually like a huge distraction and huge energy drain at work too, that you have to kind of take into consideration and factor into the overall health puzzle of becoming healthy. Because oftentimes people are like, well, the silliest thing I've ever heard is like people that have like crazy anxiety from working and they're like, well, just take this anxiety medication. I'm like, dude, just
Yeah.
like fucking switch jobs, man, at that point.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I know sometimes they would say, well, it's tough to do that, because maybe your identity is attached to the job or you already invested so much into that particular company. But it's like, yeah, okay, it's a little tough to do that, but it's also tough to keep staying in that position
That part.
too.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no amount of like, boot camps and keto programs that are going to help you, because inevitably that insidious stress is going to cause you to kind of stress eat, overburden your central nervous system, which will cause, obviously a decay or a downgrade of your immune system. And then obviously once your immune system isn't functioning well, for example, the average newborn born in a metropolitan area in the US is born with trace amounts of 200 different chemicals in their body,
Mm-hmm.
some of which could be avoided, but a lot of times just in your environment, especially in a big city.
Yeah.
And if your immune system isn't going on full blast, like that's definitely going to increase your chance of cancer and all sorts of disease. And it's not something light to consider, because right now it's almost approaching like 50 to 60% of Americans are developing cancer in their lifetime.
Yeah.
So next time you go to lunch with your friends, for example, anyone on this chat, I mean, you're sitting there with you and three other people, two of you will develop cancer and one will die from it. So that's a pretty scary statistic, and you do have to take that seriously, not take it too lightly, and stuff of that sort. So, um, well, what do you think about how have you been setting like healthy boundaries at work, and what are some tips you give to certain people? Because a lot of times I run into situations where just like, let's say the boss is, okay, you finished your work at 1. Well, guess what? You need to be here until 5 anyways.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people are just afraid or don't have the confidence or the ability to kind of set those healthy boundaries and kind of speak back to their boss or superior. Do you have like any situations where you've kind of run into like that in your place, and kind of what did you do or what did you think about that?
So I've never been those type of situations. Even like my earlier bosses that probably are not on the same level as like fitness wise or clean eating, like how I've been doing, even though they're not my level type, they kind of understood that situation. So they were very lenient on me, and I was able to get through that. But if it's, I mean, I know, like I said, it's not everybody's situation, it's not everybody ideal, but after you talking to like your boss and they're not trying to accommodate to what you're trying to do and everything, it's just best not to be in that environment too. So it kind of sucks. Um, but for me, if I need to leave early, or like, hey, I'm done, I've do my work or anything like that, I need to de-stress or whatever, like they're like, okay, cool, just take the rest of the day off, perfect, it's fine. But if someone was not allowing me to like do that, I would just definitely be like very concerned, like, hey, you know what, no, I can't work in this type of environment, I cannot give you my energy that way, I can't do that. So it's kind of hard, it's a very hard position for a lot of people, because they just can't easily move from job to job. But for me, it's just I just wouldn't stay in that environment.
I think honestly, a lot of people could move from job to job if they want. How
Well,
I look at it is like, dude, if you spent 8 hours a day looking for a new job instead of 8 hours a day working at a job that you feel isn't the best fit for you, like you'll find a damn job. Like if you
yeah,
already found a job, you can find another job.
right.
Especially in the US, it's not like the economy's in shambles, and you can't find work anywhere. I feel, is it true like right now it's easier to find a job easier than ever, especially in tech? Or am I
It has
wrong?
been no,
I could be
it has.
disconnected, so.
No, for me it has been. I mean, I've actually been in the process of finding a new job. So I've kind of like a bunch of interviews, bunch of emails, and all that. So it's just me finding the right one. I had to turn down a couple of ones because it just didn't fit to what I wanted. But it's so far has for me has been great. So I just kind of depends on the industry that you're in. Right now, tech is always like that. Even though there's a lot of tech companies that have been laying off a lot of people, there's
Hmm.
other tech companies that be like, hey, we'll take these people and just do it from there. So it's there. You just have to put yourself out there and try to get those.
Well, I think in between the lines, you mentioned something critically important, and I feel this is where people really lose themselves. A, you've at least identified a certain set of core values that are really important for you. And then B, you seek out an environment that kind of mirrors those core values or is able to facilitate those core values. And you don't kind of like prostitute yourself out in the sense of giving up the core values in exchange for kind of like one thing I see often is kind of like people, a lot of people don't even know what their core values are. They're just kind of like they're just a reflection of society's values. They don't even know their own personal values or identity or et cetera, et cetera. But I find like one of the biggest challenges I see with a lot of people is like they have a set, let's say you're like, well, I just want to work 40 hours a week.
Hmm.
But then, just for example, but then the company will be like, well, we'll give you 50 more K in this new position, but this new position requires 60 hours a week, but you're getting 50 more K
Yeah.
a year. And a lot of people, although they'll already be so drained and so unhealthy and so overweight and so haggard and on three different pharmaceuticals just to survive that 40 hours a week, they're like, well, it's 50,000 and a new prestigious title. I'm going to go for it. And what I see is, oftentimes, so first of all, obviously, if you can't handle the responsibilities of this level, there's no point of going up to that's just going to be a mental disaster for you.
Right.
But the thing I see, it's a lot of people are like, well, like it doesn't match my core values, but it's 50 more thousand, and I can brag to my friends about this new title, and my mommy will be so proud of me. Although I'm pretty sure if she really cared about you, she would be far more proud of you if she saw that you're happy, healthy, and vital and energetic instead of just miserable and burned out,
Right.
high title or whatever. But they kind of, throw their core values to the side. They prostitute themselves out, and then, 1 year goes by, and the first year they may be energetic. It may be cool. It's novel. You got this new pay coming in, et cetera, et cetera. But then, after that year evaporates, in the back of their head, they know they're being fake to themselves,
Yeah.
and that disconnect and that story gap inevitably leads them to a lot of internal stress. And that internal stress then leads them to, you know, maladaptive behavioral patterns, which lead to poor lifestyle and nutritional
Hmm.
choices, which lead to excess weight gain, which lead to dependence on dangerous pharmaceutical medical drugs that don't cure or prevent anything. They just kind of
Right.
suppress symptoms for the most part and allow people to be the dummy they were that led them into that situation to begin with, just for a little bit longer before negative side effects build up from those drugs, and then they need to get on more drugs just to counter the negative side effects of that one drug.
Yeah.
Where I know I say this often, but it's just so clear and so to the point. Like, if me and you were walking around outside, Jason, and you had a rock stuck inside your shoe, imagine how stupid I would sound if that rock that's causing you pain, I said, oh, don't even worry about that rock. Like, here, just take these painkillers. Isn't it fucking easier just to take the rock out of your
Look
shoe and
out.
walk pain free? But
Right.
that's how a lot of people approach, a lot of unfortunately educated people approach their health. They're like, well, I got this rock inside my shoe. Instead of taking the rock out, I'm just going to drown myself with all this pain medication. And then I'll continue to walk with that rock inside my shoe. And that's just like so, it's kind of painful to see that from my perspective, because I see
Hmm.
that so often, doing this for 15 years already. Are there like a lot of people in the workplace like that still? Do you feel that still especially in tech, that kind of fit into that category?
Yeah, so I in tech it can be, and I've seen it, but I've seen it with like maybe I've been working in tech for 10 years. So when I was working at the law firm, I saw that there. And it's, especially with the firm, it could be very demanding with the solutions and all that. And I can see people burning out, or they get more pay but it's more work and they're just burning yourself out. And I'm like, do I really want to get that much money and not enjoy life in a healthy environment? Like, I rather make a decent amount where I'm able to still travel and explore new things and just live a healthy, happy life. And that's always been like, you could offer me this money, but I'm always say, okay, what's going on with it? What do I have to do? Like, if you're gonna offer me more money, more title, what is it? And I see it, I'm like, it's, if I had to work an hour or two extra, okay, I get it, management wise and all that, cool, it's fine. But if I have to do like an additional 10, 15, 20 hours addition to what I was doing for more pay, and I'm just like, I don't know. I don't think I really want to do this. It's just gonna take a toll on me. It's gonna stress me out. Like, I have my day set already. I have after work the things that I have to do. Like, I don't want to come in on a Saturday or on a Sunday, or I don't. If I want days off, I that's it. I don't need you to prove them. I'm just letting you know that these are my days off, and I'm gonna go relax and have a vacation and all that. It's not, no, you have to have your phone with you in case something happens. Like, nope, like, it's no, catch me again in 15 days or whatever. So, but then there's people that like that. Working at the law firm, they would take their laptops with them, and then they're like, oh, I'm gonna be in Hawaii, but I gotta work. I'm like, and these people are making a lot of money, but then I'm just thinking about, like, that sucks that you're taking time off, but you're still working and you still have to answer your emails and calls and all that. And I'm just like, ugh, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
In tech, I think now that I've gone to different type of industries and I've seen how it works, it is evolving. It is they're taking more of that in consideration, and how much workload that you want to do and all that. And obviously it also depends on the type of company that you're in. Like I said, when it comes to like tech companies, those are really good because they focus on your mental health and how it's supposed to be and all that. So kudos for those type of companies. But I think it's slowly shifting into a better work and work environment, because tech is crucial for these companies. So it's like, if your whole team is burnt out, if something goes wrong, the company they're screwed. It's like, see ya, bye, and they need us. So it's like, hey, we're willing to do the work and all that, but you cannot stress us out. You cannot do that. And if you want to give us more pay, great. We'll do that little extra work. We'll make it better, but we're not gonna stress ourselves out. We're not gonna burn out, and more pay. But like, imagine all the medical bills that you have to pay now. All those therapy and everything. Like, okay, well, you're using that money it's not for fun anymore. It's for all medical reasons. So what's the point? Yeah.
Yeah. Jason's like, listen, man, let's be real here. You don't even know how to turn on your computer. What are you going to do if I leave? What am I going to do
Oh my
if I
God.
leave tomorrow? Okay.
Like, can you restart your computer? How do I restart my computer? I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah. Now you know how I feel with health questions, It's like, what do you mean I can't keep eating like cereal every day? Yeah, I had, oh man.
Yeah.
I'm sure the stories you can tell and I can tell can go on for ages.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you mentioned, in between the lines, a lot of people don't evaluate the cost of money.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is it costing you to make that money, to have that title? Like, how much time are you losing spending with your kids? Did it lead to a divorce because you can't spend time with your wife enough? And when you get home, you're kind of just flatlined because you're so mentally exhausted. Because a lot of jobs, especially like, I'd say middle manager and above, they have so many fires to put out in a big enough company every day that I feel, to really balance the central nervous system, for every one day of work, they genuinely need like 2 days off.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to truly optimize the health of the central nerves, obviously everyone's a little different, but the average person would fall into that category, And how many of them are taking 2 days off like a year, like genuinely? And you wonder why 9 out of 10 American adults these days are metabolically unhealthy. You know, you just kind of look at them. They look like, even if some of them do work out, they just look like very exhausted, you know,
Yeah.
like
Oh yeah.
really, like almost vampirish, like their skin's kind of like really sunken in and kind of has
Hmm.
this dead look to it. They don't have that youthful glow, et cetera, et cetera. And unfortunately, from their perspective, because in a lot of workplaces, pathology has been normalized, although it seems to be getting better, which is good to hear from your accounts. I'm kind of more referencing what I saw when I was doing corporate health lectures, like way back in like 2015, that time area. I feel it was like way different back then. I feel
Hmm.
just this COVID thing kind of accelerated the whole health
Yep.
consciousness a little bit. I wish it could have done more, but it is what it is. At least the progress is being made in certain areas. But I feel like it's tough for people to really understand that they're living in a life of pathology because it's been kind of normalized around them. And just everyone is so sick, they think like, well, this is actually what healthy looks like. But no, it's just
Right.
like the standards have been dropped so low, um, that of course you match the standards now, but just because they've been dropped like embarrassingly low as well. But to my point, it's like a lot of people, it's important to evaluate what is the cost of making this money, you know?
Right.
Like, I'm not going to have any more time to work out because
Yep.
even if you physically have those hours, just you don't have the energy to work out after an 8-10 hour day with deadline after deadline coming at you, et cetera, et cetera. So, okay, I'm going to have to give up on my workouts. What does that mean? That my body's going to look shitty. All of a sudden, I'm going to look uglier. You know, how is that going to
Hmm.
have an impact on my psychology and overall well-being? Then, if that persists long enough, you know, if I have a lot of micro stresses, I'm obviously going to stress eat. They go hand in hand with one another. You either stress eat or you abuse drugs or both.
Right.
Most like a lot of times is both. People stress eat plus they abuse pharmaceutical drugs or street drugs in the more extreme situation. Okay, am I willing to put myself at risk at that? You know what I mean? And then, like you mentioned, yes, the average person spends around um, 5 to 7K a year on medical expenses related to poor lifestyle and nutritional choices.
Hmm.
Okay, cool. I mean, the company gave you 15K raise to work those extra 15 hours. You're spending 33% of that on just medical bills, and you still look and feel like shit because those
Right.
drugs aren't going to, at the end of the day, make you look like Superman or feel like Superman. You know, they're just going to kind of give you more time so you can stay plugged into the matrix and be productive producer in that machine, et cetera, et cetera, which I find
Right.
is a big problem, a big issue I have with current healthcare in the fitness industry and holistic and medical industry as well. I'm not excluding it. It's just they're all about like, um, how can we get this person to work more hours at work to keep working those hours or make those demands? But I'm like, dude, why don't we just get this motherfucker out of the swamp instead of learning how to exist in the swamp? Wouldn't
Right.
that be way easier? You know what I mean? But I think healthcare providers have a tough time thinking that way because they're also stuck in that system. They're equally overworked, they're overly drugged. Like if you go to a medical convention, it's like basically an obesity convention. All the
I, very shocked to see like when I see yeah people and I'm just like, oh, you're supposed to be the experts and tell us how to live a healthy life, but then I see them, you're like, oh,
Yeah,
okay.
it's total
Yeah.
opposite. I had
Yeah.
I ran into like one doctor where he was like getting like basically like 70%, 80, he was asking me some fat loss question. He was getting like 70 or 80% of his calories from like cereal. Uh, I Cheerios. That was his favorite cereal. I forgot exactly. Cheerios.
Uh-huh.
And he had like huge gyno, a huge gut, like basically obese, you know, at a kind of like a fairly young age. And I told him, well, to convert to like whole food and stuff of that sort. And he actually tried to debate me on like why that's important to eat whole food versus cereal, especially when you're getting in 70% of your total calories from cereal. And I'm
Cereal.
like, dude, not only cereal, it's like Cheerios. It's like the cheapest freaking brand out there. And I'm like, I'm surprised I even had to have that conversation. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I don't know. It's just kind of shocking sometimes. And I feel maybe that's why you rarely see Americans getting healthier. Like I quoted that number, 9 out of 10 Americans are metabolically unhealthy now. It's
Hmm.
like, dude, look at their leaders. Look at their health leaders. They're equally unhealthy. No wonder they can't get their answers. How are these people going to teach other people how to do it when they can't even do it themselves. Just from what you said right now, I guarantee you have actually more applicable knowledge that people can use than the average healthcare provider, you know,
Right.
100%. Although they have so much schooling and can sound so much smarter than you with their industry terminology, I guarantee you their application ability is close to embarrassing. I don't even want to give it a number. I'm just giving it a title of embarrassing.
Embarrassing. That's it.
Yeah, and results speak
Yeah.
for themselves, man. I mean, just go to any
Yeah.
health clinic or medical office. It's like, dude, look at the nurses, look at the doctors. It's like,
And even then, I
dude,
mean, surprisingly, when I try to look for doctors and all that, like I look at that because whatever their experience is or advice is and all that, like they're gonna get that onto me. So I need to see the same thing back and forth there. Like, okay, you know, they're gonna give me advice and all that, but you know, am I gonna look like that, or how do they know? Like, I don't know. It's, you know, it's kind of a it's kind of like a two-way thing. It's I'd rather have someone that looks healthy and like, okay, cool. Like, I mean, I'm not saying that they have to be like perfectly fit and all
yeah,
that and
of
crazy and like
course,
that,
yeah.
but and they gotta look healthy in a way. Like, okay, cool, because I'm gonna take advice from this person. I'm gonna, whatever they're saying, or have a decent conversation about my health. Like, it's gonna definitely impact me. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, you said it right. You know, at the end of the day, like, what's the whole point of the health field? To make people healthy.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And if you can't do it yourself, it's like, dude, it's like asking a person for financial advice that never made any money to begin
And
with.
then,
Like, who would do that? You know what I mean? I,
yeah.
I'm like, dude, like, there's some kind of disconnect if a person
Right.
isn't able to do it themselves and they don't know how to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because why wouldn't you want to look your best, feel your best, have a lot of energy, have a strong sex drive, not have disease, not have gut issues or orthopedic issues? Like, why wouldn't you want that? You know what I mean?
Right.
So the fact that someone may have that, especially if they're a health professional, tells me that there's some kind of missing gap in their knowledge base that's not able to get the machine functioning properly,
Hmm.
the biological machine being the body, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
Uh, but how do you, what are some tips on like when you're kind of like going out and stuff like that to not because I feel a lot of people ruin their fitness goals on the weekends too.
Yeah.
That's a big culprit because unfortunately, I mean, unless they're kind of hanging out with people like me and you, they're probably not going to make the best decisions, you know? Yeah. Jason's like Jason's like every time I
What?
go out, I just see you a mental image of my head. It just like frightens me, you know. And I quickly go back home and just stare at the ceiling and go to
Like,
sleep. Yeah.
um,
I remember
oh,
one time, really quick before you go that, I remember just one time listening to an interview with like McGregor. He's like the MMA fighter guy.
oh yeah,
And he was like one time talking about, he's like, oh, sometimes when I look in the mirror, I get some fright because I see a monster. I see a machine. You know, I thought that was funny, man. Anyways, go
um,
ahead. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
no, that's okay. So yeah, that is that. Yeah. So how do I answer this? um, it, I mean, obviously, I like to go out on weekends sometimes. It's not every weekend type of thing, but once in a while, I'm with my friends and all, like, let's do that, have a drink and have a good time and all that. So, there just have to be a limit, because obviously, if you drink a lot more than you're supposed to, you're gonna get hungry. You wanna get a cheeseburger, pizza, and you just get all that, and you know, you kind of you break your diet, and it's done, so it's kind of have to just limit myself. And also the type of drinks that you get, like, okay, what's the best drink that's going to be for me? What's something that's not going to get me super drunk, or I'm
Water.
gonna, it will, water, or
Duh. Like, dude.
but
Basically, all I've
you
been
want to,
drinking
like,
since like
okay, like,
1985, you know?
okay, yeah. If you want to, like, an alcoholic drink, right? Like, just making those type of decisions, and just see from there. Because I think, what's a very sugary drink that everybody drinks, like cranberry and vodka. Well, yeah, that could be very sugary. Like, okay, maybe not do that one. Maybe just take the whole glass itself without the cranberry. Just take the alcohol itself, right? If you want to, like, for people that still want to drink and all that, like make better decisions from there and just limit yourself. You don't have to get completely wasted or anything like that, because again, that kind of leads into like eating, like, I'm hungry, I need bread to absorb all the alcohol, and you just stuff yourself with bread and do that. So just kind of just limit yourself and all that. And also something that I do, I hit the dance floor. It's a freaking great exercise to do if you're gonna go and drink whatever. Hit the dance floor for an hour or two. Like seriously, like have 2 drinks or so. Let's hit the dance floor, dance or whatever, and do that. Like I look at my watch when I'm doing that. Like my heart rate's up. I'm burning by the end of the night. I'm burning like 500 calories already. I'm like, okay, all right, and I'm just dancing. So it's like hit the dance floor. Like I don't care how silly you look, whatever. Do that. That's a way to do it instead of just sitting down at a bar and drinking or whatever. Like get a drink or two, hit the dance floor, have a good time, and yeah, that's my thing. I always have to hit the dance floor. So bust up my cool moves and all that. But that is a form of exercising. So people that are watching, like, dance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I find one thing that works to your advantage is the fact that you, once again, you did the most important thing that you could have done to create lasting change, and that moreover, you created change in your belief system in terms of just, once again, thinking, like having the short-sighted thought of like, all I need to do is eat better and work out a little bit more. You know what I mean? As you can see, it's like a total picture kind of change. And most people just, once again, approach it like through a symptom management mindset of I just got to eat better or work out more. And that's the same as telling a person with like, that's abusing alcohol, like, hey, you just got to stop drinking so much. It's like, dude, why didn't I think of that? I just had to stop. I didn't know it was that right? Simple, all along, you know what I mean? And it's the same. And I know a lot of friends and family wish the best on people with weight challenges. They tell them, well, you just got to eat a little bit more, a little bit less, most likely they tell them, or you just got to work out a little bit more or something like that. And dude, that's just not helpful at all, because they have to do so much more. I mean, most of the time they have to change who they are as a person completely 180, right, which could mean getting out of jobs that's not suitable for them, getting out of relationships that are no longer suitable for them, or just changing a belief system that's no longer suitable for them, more importantly, because they wouldn't be, when a person gains a lot of that excess weight, that's more of a symbol of a lot of like internal distress. A lot of people just really focus on the aesthetics of it. You know what I mean? They're like, oh, it just looks bad, but there's nothing else wrong with that outside of it just looks bad. But it's a byproduct, it's a symptom of a lot of internal distress that leads to, like I mentioned, maladaptive behaviors, which leads to poor lifestyle and nutritional choices, which once again leads to excess fat gain, And sometimes it happens quick with certain people, but sometimes it also takes a long time. You gain like 5 pounds a year. You can't really see that year to year, Right. But hey, five years later, you're 25 pounds in. 10 years later, you're 50 pounds in. And the problem with the human mind is it tends to kind of like habituate and normalize if it's slow enough. It's kind of like the boiling frog, in a pan. It doesn't really notice if you kind of turn up the heat slightly. It's the same thing with the human mind. It's kind of like sometimes watching like grass grow, So it's like you kind of look the same year after year. But like you mentioned, when you take a picture sometimes and you look at especially your back, a lot of my clients are kind of surprised when they see a picture of their back. They're like, whoa, dude, what the hell is going on with this Ninja Turtle shell? It's kind of, and that's a big awakening. And stuff of that sort. I mean, probably if you think back of when you were 25 pounds overweight, there must have been some kind of disconnect in your core values that was leading to that kind of excessive eating and stuff of that sort.
Right. Yeah. It was just like I said in the beginning, I was always the skinny kid. I just, when I was even in my teenage years, I would just eat, and then my metabolism was just so great. But then like after like when I was in college, I was going to school, I was working, and so like doing homework. So stress eating, like instead of me trying to cook meals, whatever, I just go to McDonald's, grab cheeseburgers and just eat it. And that was like my meal like almost every day. But I didn't notice because I was so used to be like, I'm just gonna eat and I'm just gonna stay skinny, because that's always been my whole life. Until like I knew
like no. Once the 25 and 30 kicked in,
until like
isn't gonna be your whole life, actually.
Until like I knew I had gained a little bit of weight because I'm like, oh, that's just normal because I'm getting older or whatever, right? Until you took the picture and I saw it, I was like, holy sh! Like my freaking yeah. I'm like, did you Photoshop these pictures, right? Like,
That's how they look, man. What was that character in McDonald's? That huge like purple avocado looking thing?
oh
Grimace.
yeah, yeah,
The
yeah,
Grimace?
yeah. I don't know the name, but I know the yeah, it was
Yeah.
the purple one. Yeah.
I always wondered with those like characters, even if like the McDonald's guy, like imagine you're sitting and he just like randomly walks in your house, like how frightening that would be, you know? Dude, my heart would skip a beat, you know, just like seeing that. You're like,
Like,
oh.
what are you doing here?
No, like, dude, that's frightening, man. It's like a horror character, you know?
Yeah, these characters were not. I mean, yeah, I agree. We're not very child friendly in some ways. I'm just like, yeah.
Well, what made you? I feel like one obstacle of many that keeps people in a loop of never changing is
Mhm.
I find it really funny with human psychology. It's kind of like for most people when their car breaks, they're like, well, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to take it to a mechanic, obviously, you know?
Mhm.
But when their body is breaking down or where they have excess fat, all of a sudden they become like a genius and they're like, I know what I need to do. I'm going to do it myself, you know. But the human body and the human mind is far more complicated than a freaking car. And oftentimes with the internet, it could be deceptive because there are a decent amount of answers on the internet that could be easily taken out of context if you don't know what you're doing. But it's the equivalent of like me giving you a car manual of how to construct a car from start to finish. Let's say even all the answers are there in plain English, not even
Mhm.
industry lingo. Like how many people would be able to build that car from scratch? Almost nobody. And it's the same exact thing I find. It's the same exact thing I find with like fitness goals.
Mhm.
And a lot of times when people aren't, sometimes you hear people say like, "Oh, I lack motivation," you know, that's why I'm not doing it. Really, what they're lacking in between the lines of what they're saying is clarity of a program
Mhm.
that would actually work. Because if
Right.
they knew what to do and they knew it would produce a given result, who wouldn't want to do it? Once again, who wouldn't want the image of their ideal body, whatever that is, or their ideal health, you know what I mean, or their ideal mental and physical health. Like it's kind of stupid to presume you don't want that because that sets the base to like everything you literally do. I don't care, for example, of you know, whether you want to be a president of a company, a computer programmer, a government worker. It doesn't matter. Like, how are you going to do any of those things without your mental and physical health? You know what I
Right.
mean? That sets the foundation to literally like everything you do in life. And because people put that last, I mean, academically, intellectually, they might say they put it first, but then their actions definitely speak differently. Their foundation sucks. That's why their life sucks for most people. You know, like I went to Costco, embarrassingly to say, I went to Costco for the first time, being the author of Anti-Factory Farm Shopping Guide, obviously, you know, telling people anyways, but like I went there for the first time like 2 weeks
Yeah.
ago, and I was literally like it was a Sunday, it was packed, and you know how
Oh,
packed grocery
yeah.
stores get on Sunday. And I was literally the only male there without huge gyno and a huge gut. Like only one there. I'm like, dude, how could you be enjoying the quality of your life like this? You know what I mean?
Right.
It's not only just like visually like not appealing, but it hurts like so many aspects of your life in so many different ways. It's like endless, you know what I mean? I don't know what
Right.
your opinion is on that, on just kind of seeing just how unhealthy like America has become.
So it's just, I mean, like I said, like the motivation or the or anything like that. I think it's I think finding the right program, how you know how you're mentioning and all that. And I think also your environment and having those people around you. I mean, if you're trying to get healthy and all that, but your friends are still inviting you to go like, hey, let's go grab pizza, let's go here, let's go eat there, let's go do that and all that. And sometimes, you know, it all, you know, I've when I was going through my journey and I'll tell people about it, they'll have some sort of respect for it. Like even though I will get invited to those restaurants, like I'll choose what to eat, maybe get like a, you know, depending to stay on my diet, right? Choose, you can still go to the restaurant, but you gotta you got to find the right things to eat and all that. But then there's people that be like, oh no, you're fine, it's only one day, here, have this, have that, and they'll just order like a huge plate of nachos with like meat and avocado and all these crazy things on there, or they'll order cheese sticks and all that, like, and they're just like bombard you with it. So at the same time, it's just kind of like the environment. So like people that I try to encourage to, like, hey, let's eat a little bit better, or let's exercise a little bit better, and then they'll be like, oh no, I can't, my friend invited me to go over his place and I can't go to the gym. I'm like, okay, all right, well, let's do the next day. And they always get
Mm-hmm.
like an excuse, or something happens from there, or some get invited to somewhere else. So I don't know, it's just kind of the environment. And even though those people are not in the same path healthy wise and all that, at least to give you an encouragement, or at least to give you in the right direction, like, it's fine. But I think also your environment and where you're situated at. So I know I have a lot of friends that are not super fit or anything like that, but if they see me eat in a certain way, or hey, I need
You
to go
mean
to the
eat like a
gym.
human being?
Yeah. Eat like a human being. Or like if I say, hey,
I
I
like
can
how
hang
that's
out
how you're
with
like an anomaly now, like what? You still eat like a human being? What?
uh, like if I be like, hey, I need to go to the gym, so I can't meet with you, but this is my gym time. They'll be like, okay, cool, we'll do it after you're done with your gym. Like, at least that type of, so
You're
you
like, I'm
know
never done with the gym.
so so yeah, so it's just that those, it, like I said, your friends, you don't have to be surrounded by fit people, whatever, right? But at least be surrounded with people that are going to be like still motivated for you to do your thing, even though they're not on that same page or
Yeah.
whatever they're doing. So
That's
yeah.
huge because there's that
Hmm.
old saying like you are the accumulation or average of the five people you hang out with the most. Five, four, I forgot the exact number. But the funny
Yeah.
thing is, I mentioned with family dinners and stuff of that sort.
Mm,
Here's the thing. Here's absolute funny thing you'll notice, and you can't unsee it once you see it. It's so funny, but it's like around a dinner, especially with kind of like people that are 40 plus, 50 plus, they're sitting there eating food and encouraging you to eat that food while most likely complaining about some kind of health problem or their excess weight. Like, doesn't that come off as like very pathological? It's like, wait a minute,
it,
you are complaining about a problem that's due to the way you're eating the food you're
right
eating
now.
right now, and then you're encouraging me, your loved one, to eat the same exact way. Doesn't that strike you as normalizing pathology?
Right.
And
Yeah.
yeah, I totally see that a lot. It's like, dude, it's like, I don't get it, man.
Yeah, no, it's I totally understand that, because that's how it was when we were growing up. Growing up in a Mexican household, you just have all these. I mean, great food. Yeah, it's delicious. It's like all that, but it was very fattening, and it was just a lot of carbs and just too much, right? In excess. And I think that's I know it changed a little bit, not as much, but like I know when my dad got type 2 diabetes, or like he just had a lot of things going on, high blood pressure, like everything, and all that. So then we're like, okay, well, maybe we gotta change a little certain way. Like, maybe we could still eat this, like enchiladas, right? Maybe we can still eat that, but my mom will make them a little bit differently, like not, not to use too much cheese or whatever, just little things here and there that won't be too much from there. But I luckily, as I when I as I was growing up, I kind of saw those. I'm like, I don't want to, you know. It's funny because when I was young, I thought like, man, you're gonna be 40 years old, and I thought being 40 was it. I thought that was it. I thought like, oh, you're gonna be with all these diseases, all these stuff, because I saw that with
Hmm.
my dad. I'm like, and growing, I'm like, damn, that's it, it's 40. But then as I got older and I realized, I'm like, I'm 32, so I'm like 8 years away from being 40. I'm like, oh, I'm not taking medication for anything right now. I'm not. I don't. If I go to the doctor, it's just for me to get my physical, just make sure I'm good or anything like that. Just all my levels are great, and that's pretty much what I do. I don't go for the doctor just sees me. He's like, "What are you here for?" I'm like, "I don't know. Just check me, make sure I'm good. I don't know." So it's just like
You're like, what else I'm
it's
here for? I'm not going to get health advice. Take my blood, you know?
yeah. So I mean, luckily for me, I've always had that mindset. Like, okay, I don't want to do that. Like, I want to be 40, I want to be 50, and still not taking any medication or anything like that. So, as I got older, I realized that no, it's how to be it's your eating habits, it's the way you're doing it, and work environment, and obviously all that. As I got into adulthood, I've noticed that. But yeah, like growing up in a family, we used to just have this and eat. And if you don't eat it, you got to eat everything. And then you're just like, like I'm full. Like, no, eat it. I'm like, So, yeah, I totally understand that whole family situation stuff. So,
Yeah. Do you find it, I find it like hard sometimes. Do you find it hard to see, like, because you're getting into your mid 30s pretty soon? You're 32, so you got some more time, but
hmm
usually it's mid 30s when the health issues really start kicking in on overdrive. So you'll see in about like 2 or 3 years, probably going to be a common theme in your life as well. But don't you think it's kind of like sad to see the friends that you're like, for example, running around with healthy and happy in your younger years, but now they're like very overweight, low on energy. A lot of them have this kind of like dead look on their face. Doesn't that kind of like hurt you to see a lot of that, especially in close friends that you shared a lot of great memories with and all that?
yeah, yes, especially the ones that I grew up in high school with. Like they were very active and athletic. They were like in a football team and all that. And I in a way I kind of look up to that because when I was in teenage years, I was just a very scrawny, skinny kid and all that. So I'm like, oh, but then now it's just kind of like the roles were reversed. But instead of being skinny, they're just kind of a little overweight. They're having some medical issues or you know it's just yeah, it's just kind of like if they just took care of themselves just a little bit, it wouldn't have to lead that way. But it's just kind of how it is. It's it also has to do with like I mean I don't want to put down or anything like that, but when they get married and have kids, you see that difference. It's like um I don't know. I guess even now, like people my age, by 25, 26, they had to be married. They had to have kids. And even though they weren't mentally prepared for that, even though they weren't prepared for any of that, like they had to do it because that was the expectation to do it. And kids they could be stressful. They could add a lot of, it could be that way. So, and they weren't prepared for it. So it's like, it's just more add on to it. And now obviously when you see people that are, uh, financially prepared, physically prepared, mentally prepared to have kids and all that. You don't see that because I've seen couples that are like freaking like in great shape and all that, and they have 3 kids. I'm like, damn, but they're a little older. They're
Mm-hmm.
they're and I see their whole lives before kids that they were already active. They were
Mm-hmm.
already in
It
all
was
that.
already
So
ingrained. Yeah.
right, yeah, and like I say, it doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that they're like freaking ripped and everything crazy like that. No, because I get it. At some point when you have kids, it does add stress to it. So they're not super into it like
Hey,
that.
my
But you
dad
can.
forced me to go sit at the gym with him while he was working out, man. Guess where I
But
picked up those
right,
habits, you know?
and there you go.
He's
Yeah.
like, I'm still
So
hitting my gym session. You're going to be here lifting with me, man. I was lifting like 1 pound dumbbells. It was all like strange
yeah,
even doing them there.
yeah.
But go ahead. I
Yeah.
didn't mean to
So
interrupt.
yeah. Oh no. Yeah. So that's just what I said. It's just like when I compare to my friends to like people that are actually prepared to bring people into this world, whatever. It's just there's a difference there, and then
Yeah.
um yeah. So,
Well, for those parents out there, I get this a lot, and I have a few things to say here, and they're very important. First and foremost, as everyone knows, your kids learn more from what they see you doing versus what you tell
mhm.
them to do. So they learn from your behavior. So, what are you communicating to your kids when you come home, when you put work so far ahead of your mental and physical health? You're communicating to them that it's okay to self abuse yourself and not set healthy boundaries at work as well. And guess
Mhm.
what? Is it making you happy? Probably not. Most likely not. What do you
Right.
think that's going to do to them? The same exact thing. They're going to get into those same exact patterns because, as the saying goes, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, et cetera, et
Mhm.
cetera. And so, what is that setting? On top of that, it's like you only have so much love and energy to give as you have yourself. You
Yeah.
can't donate to charity if you don't have money yourself. You know what I mean? You can only donate as much as you have. It's the same thing with love and energy. If you're coming home like you're flatlined because you don't take care of yourself. You don't choose the healthier food options, et cetera, et cetera. How are you going to attend to them? You know what I mean? How are you going to attend to your wife and your kids and stuff of that sort? And once again, you're going to normalize these kind of patterns and behaviors in that household as well. So what's going to happen when they get older? They're going to do the same
Right.
exact thing. That's why, uh, overweight people have overweight pets and kids. And you can see it's not the fact that it
Yeah.
runs in their genetic. Remember, the greatest virus of all is a belief system that doesn't
Hmm.
facilitate health conscious choices. That virus has killed more people than anything else on the planet. And that virus spreads just like a virus from person to person.
Right.
Ideas spread from person to person as well. So you're setting that example. And I had one client, she's a very well paid, and I did an interview with her. She's actually in our group as well, Megan Valentine. Was a very well paid computer science
Hmm.
a professional. So roughly in your same industry. And she was like 10 years in, 12 years in, started developing all sorts of health issues and anxiety issues. And then got a kid and just didn't want to raise her kid with that kind of energy coming home.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which I see a lot of people doing, and then it kind of translates into their behavior patterns. So she did the right thing, in my opinion, and she quit to go
Mm.
work remotely in a semi off-grid living environment and living a lot off the land and teaching her kid how to prioritize her health and wellness, which I feel was a big impact on me because I was raised by my grandmother off-grid as well.
Hmm.
And dude, we're in bed because you couldn't even see outside. You're like definitely in the house at like 7 p.m., 6 p.m. because you can't even like see 2 feet in front of you when
Yeah.
it's that dark without any artificial electricity. We just out in nature all day and lived off the land, et cetera, et cetera. And maybe worked like 3, 4 hours in the morning and that's it. The rest of the day was off.
Hmm.
And that played a huge impact. So as you can see, behaviors mimic each other. And unfortunately, it's just like how I see a lot of people raising their kids. I think their intentions are well, but in my opinion, it's just once again promoting that pathology of behavior. You know what I mean? Just
Right.
continuing that cycle. And I mean, results speak for themselves. Where 9 out of 10 Americans are metabolically unhealthy now. Like, dude, just what? Forget that study. It's the weekend. Go outside anywhere today, and like 9 out of 10 people you run into are like full of obesity and disease. Et
Yeah.
cetera, et cetera. And like I mentioned, it all starts with that disconnect of the core values. Once that starts, the wider the gap, the more pain you're going to feel in your life.
Right.
And you mentioned like, oh, they felt pressure to have kids. Well, if they
Hmm.
felt pressure, that means they genuinely didn't want to have kids themselves. That means it wasn't their core value. And once again, they fell into the loop of social programming, which, ooh, if you do that, man, it might buy you some peace of mind initially, right away. But boy, you're going to be under a lot of misery and pain your whole life once you start down that path. And
Yeah.
no boot camp, stupid ass fad diet, pharmaceutical drugs is going to save you from a life of obesity and pain. And the
Yeah.
longer you stay there, the more you're going to justify to continue to stay there and not move from it. It's just like it's a sad sight because it's the saddest part of all is most people are just doing it unconsciously. They
Right.
think it's totally normal, and it's not normal to have, gyno, huge gut, bad skin, this like haggard, dead look on your face all the time, having
Right.
anxiety, depression, anger issues, insomnia, taking like 10 different pharmaceutical drugs just to be able to go to work
Yeah.
and not topple over. It's not normal, man. That's a life of pathology. And it needs to be, I know I kind of sound a little bit rude bringing it up this way, but I think it's been sugar coated, literally sugar coated for so long. And
Yeah.
some reality checks need to be put in place. So also these people aren't sold false promises by a lot of the people in the health field as well. Like,
Right.
dude, you're not going to solve, let's say you have something as simple as something as common as high blood pressure. Like, okay, cool. They'll give you some high blood pressure medication. It'll suppress your blood pressure a little bit. But guess what? That belief system that led to that high blood pressure is going to lead to a myriad of other issues. It's
Hmm.
leading already to a myriad of other issues. What's going to happen with all those other issues? They're equally problematic. Are you just going to
Right.
continue to take drugs for all these issues? Are you going to continue to take painkillers instead of removing the rock from your shoe? Like a child understands that concept. Like, why do educated adults not understand that concept? It's really sad and discouraging sight to see.
Yeah. No, yeah,
Well,
I
what
totally agree with you.
Well, what's your
So
why did you decide to reach out for coaching? Because I feel like a lot of people, first of all, most coaches suck. I'm just going to come out and say it. So a lot of people are afraid to reach out for coaching because they don't want their money to be wasted. Was that like a
hmm
concern when you came to the program? Like, oh, I'm going to pay this money and I'm just not going to see any results, or the results are going to be kind of shitty. Was that all? I don't know if you can think that far back, but was that at all a concern?
no, I think the I know the reason why I went is because I knew whatever I was doing was not getting me anywhere. Because even though before, prior to you, like, yeah, I would still work out and everything, and I would eat, but it wasn't my best eating habits and all that. But at the same time, I wasn't splurging my food with food or anything like that. But something wasn't working, and I needed someone to tell me how or show me the guidance and going to the right direction. And I think with you, it was also the mindset. Like, it was also, you just can't. I just can't. Whatever I learn from you in the next 6 months, I just can't let that go, and that's it. Like, it had to be a lifestyle
Hmm.
choice, and how to go for. Yeah, no, it's just me. We kind of joke around, like, but when I eat or when I exercise, whatever, like, sounds a little corny, but you're still on my mind.
For better or worse, it's being haunted. You know,
Like, what were
you're like,
you,
I can't.
Gene?
You look at the plate and you see my face pop up. You're like, whoa, Jesus!
And you're like, oh.
You're like, knock it off the table.
Okay, fine, all right.
It's
No,
like
but
the
it's
heart starts palpitating for like a minute or two before it slows back down. It's like Nightmare on Elm Street.
right, yeah. But no, it's just like everything that I learned from you during those times and all that, and like, even after I was done with your program, like, it was like, okay, like, it's your teachings and all that was still with me. So every time I would do my own thing on my own. Like, okay, this is what I learned from Eugene. Let me do this, or maybe add a little thing on my own, or yeah, my eating habits. Let's try this. Let's try that. It's just everything is there. Like, I still keep whatever I learned from you, and whatever I'm currently doing right now. So and it helped. It's been what, 7 years now since we did, like, back in Newport Beach. But yeah, it's just I needed that guidance and something. And obviously, I did my research on you. I checked your website. I checked the reviews, and all that, and just see where you stand and how people how other, when they took the same program with you. So, and that's why I made my choice. So yeah.
Yeah. I always tell people the best fat loss program is one that allows you not to be on another fat loss program ever again. That's the best, because a lot of people kind of brag about, like, oh, I lost 20 or 30 pounds, but they're like still like 40 pounds overweight, like 4 or 5 years later or whatever. I'm like, dude,
hmm
that means the program was not successful.
Right.
It was just not successful, because any kind of health program that is successful gives you a complete resolution of that issue, whatever that issue is.
hmm
Or at least it brings it beneath subclinical levels, like if you have like propensity for anxiety and you had clinical levels. Well, I would still say a successful program is one that brings it below clinical levels. You might have lingering issues here and there, but it's not like so bad. It's more over like just whatever, you can kind of deal with it, but it's not debilitating towards your life. But the
Yeah.
best fat loss program is one that makes it so you don't have to be on another fat loss program. You might
hmm
gain, like a pound or two here or there, whatever, but it's not like you're going to gain 25 or 30 pounds that you're going to need to re-lose again. And it's very stressful on the heart to lose and gain weight a lot of times. I forgot the exact number and I'm probably going to misquote it, and some guy online is going to come attack me for
Just fight
this.
you over there.
But I think for every like 5 or 10 pounds you lose, it's the equivalent of your heart having to run, lose or gain. It's the equivalent of your heart having to run to the moon and back. So it puts
Oh,
like a
okay.
lot of mileage on your heart.
Yeah.
Once again, not 100% certain of those numbers, but I know it's something that kind of
Along
detrimental,
the way.
so you don't want to be having like these huge weight fluctuations. And another issue with huge weight fluctuations, obviously the skin elasticity issue. You don't
Mm.
want your skin to be stretching out and then molding back, stretching out. And then you're going to look like a shriveled prune by the time you're 40, like a dried up shriveled prune by the time you're 40. Obviously that's not cool. you know, so
Truthfully, yeah.
uh, there's uh, there's that aspect too. So, well, Jason, any other kind of takeaways that you would love to chat or pass down? What's been, well, last question, what's been
Hmm.
the hardest thing, the hardest challenge for you to not forget about your putting yourself first, putting your mental and physical health first, because the world wants you to put it first oftentimes,
Hmm.
you know, at the expense of your mental and physical health and appearance. Like, what's been the biggest challenge for you all these years over the last 7 years? If you can kind of think back of one example.
Um, I think it will probably just be. I mean, I'm I'm in a good place right now, but I think it's just the work environment that for me was like a major big thing. I know when I met you when I was working at the law firm, and it was just like a it was like a it was stuck, right? And I couldn't do what I fully wanted to do. It's just sitting down and all that. Even though I had found ways to go around it and all that and better, but uh, just the happiness just wasn't completely there, and also that could totally take toll on your mental health and obviously the workouts and all that. So I think that and just overall make sure that I'm happy. It's, I corny, right, or whatever, but it's just true. Make sure that I you know, when it comes to living in LA, it you know everything can be very superficial and just like when you meet people and all that, it how could I say this without offending
You don't have to
anybody?
say it nicely on this podcast. I would prefer you say it truthfully, you know?
You know, when you meet shitty people and all that and everything, and like your environment when it comes to those kind of things, it takes a toll on you. And also with like the dating life, I think that could also be something to it, and all that. So in the end, it's just be happy with yourself and give that respect to yourself, because when you're happy and all that, you live better. You know, I go and do my works and I feel great and I eat great and all that. So it kind of just the happiness overall, and who do you surround yourself with. And I did struggle with that a little bit, like I said, especially living in LA. I could be very superficial and all that. I did struggle with that. So yeah, there was times where I just didn't want to get out of bed. I'm like, oh, should I go work out? Like I just kept pushing it and all that. And I caught myself a couple of times like, hey, no, what's causing you to feel this way and all that. So just kind of work yourself. And
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. You're like sleeping in bed and then you hear a voice like, Jason.
Look, Jesus, who's that?
What's going on?
Yeah.
You look at the time and like 3 days have gone by. You're like, whoa, dude, it's a Wednesday. When did you sleep
It's
on
a
Sunday?
police check, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we're doing a what's that thing called? The check thing. Like we're just making
Yeah,
sure
just to
you're
see
in
if you're
there.
still alive,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. Like I'm fine.
Yeah, LA is tough, man. LA always gave me
Hmm.
anxiety, especially when driving around there. I had to
Oh.
move out into the wilderness, man. That's where I found I thrive. It's not for everyone. I'm not going to sell it to
Right.
everyone. It was just for me because I just like kind of having distance
Hmm.
and not not dealing with traffic and like all that stuff and stuff of that. So definitely not for everyone. But yeah,
Right.
living in the city for sure adds challenges. But it all comes down to if you're clear about your core values. And if you don't know
Hmm.
them, hey, it's I got this for Stefan Walensky. Like you don't know who you are until you know who you are not first.
Mm.
So try
Hmm.
shit out, and your spirit will tell you if there's some kind of disconnect or it's not working out for you. And it's all about listening to that internal
Yeah.
feeling and write it down. You know, you hang out with a certain person, they give you a weird vibe, like write it down. Maybe that person, that type of person isn't for you. Now you're
Hmm.
closer to the definition of what type of person you do want to hang out with. Same thing with work, you know, certain, if you had a former job, like you worked at that law firm and it didn't work out, hey, thank that job because it showed you what you don't want in your future
Yeah.
job. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And you wouldn't know that without that contrast. Like you don't know what white is without knowing what black is.
Right.
You know what I mean? Et cetera, et cetera. And it's always, guys, it's always important, like, to be selfish at the end of the day. As weird as that
Yeah.
sounds,
Oh,
but you
no, I
already know,
agree
because
with
if
you.
you don't
Yeah,
have
yeah.
your, yeah, if you don't have
Uh-huh.
your needs met first, nothing is gonna, no relationship or job is gonna last long term. Even if it does, you're just gonna be miserable during the entire process.
Mm-hmm.
Even if for some reason it lasts long term, which is rare that it would, especially with divorce rates now, I think in LA it's probably like 100%. Exaggerate. It's probably at least, I wouldn't be surprised if it's probably at least 80. I wouldn't be surprised if it's probably at least 80%.
Mm-hmm.
I'll look it up
Yeah.
after this, and I guarantee you it's probably
We see
around
from there.
that number. So
Yeah.
anyways, so Jason, thanks for being a guest on the podcast. It's good to see you after
Of
so many
course.
years. And
Yeah, no, same here.
you show it's possible to create lasting change, but to create lasting change, you have to change.
You have to change.
Obviously. So that's the theme, which means you have to change your belief system. Okay, that's
Yeah,
where the change needs to start. So, thank you everyone for jumping on the show. Great to see everyone, and have a good weekend. Okay, guys. All right, Jason. Good to see you as well.
cool. All right. See ya. Thanks.